Ladies and gentlemen, please find your seats. Our program will begin shortly. Please give a warm welcome to Aspen Institute's Latinos in Society Program Executive Director, Domenika Lynch.
Good morning, good morning. Buenos dias. Good morning, everyone, if you can take your seats. On behalf of the Aspen Institute, welcome to Washington, D.C. It is my honor to welcome you here. Thank you for joining us for our second annual Latino Business and Entrepreneurship Summit. Our theme is fostering economic resilience in Latino communities. And I'm so excited to share the space with some of the most amazing leaders that we have in our community, the brightest minds, the fiercest community advocates across sectors in business, in government, research, policy, and those that are so intent in ensuring that we accelerate inclusive growth. There is no question that the pandemic has become the greatest action-forcing event of our generation, reminding us that although there is power in numbers, there is powerlessness in fragmentation. Economic mobility and civic leadership is diminished when Latinos are not at the table where decisions are made. And as we say in Washington, D.C., if you're not at the table, then you're on the menu. It is a sobering reality that Latino workers, they're underpaid by $288 billion annually. That's half the gross revenues of Walmart in a given year. And that our Latino-owned businesses, well, they can't scale due to systemic barriers limiting access to capital, to contracts, and the networks necessary to fully participate in business growth and job creation. In fact, the latest McKinsey report, The Economic State of Latinos in America, estimates that discriminatory practices prevent Latinos from starting, get this, 735,000 new businesses that could generate 6.6 million new jobs, an additional 2.3 trillion more in annual revenues for this country. It is a sad truth that today, 70% of Black and Latino households are no longer considered middle class. The widening wealth gap creates an urgency to renegotiate our social contract. Wealth building for low, moderate income households is critical to rebuilding the shrinking American middle class. It is critical for our nation's economic resilience, our democracy, and our global competitiveness. Just think about what wealth provides a community. Wealth provides resilience. It protects people's ability to meet their needs, even in the face of adversity, so that they can continue working towards their goal. Wealth provides intergenerational wealth. You need wealth to build wealth. And that way you can change the trajectory of your children's and your family's life. And finally, wealth provides civic empowerment and community resilience. This is why the Aspen Latinos in Society program is organizing local leaders, coordinating action, and creating playbooks to unlock the highest potential in our community so that we can build wealth. And I'm so proud to work with partners like the NOAC Metro Finance Lab at Drexel University, led by the incomparable Bruce Katz, and the U.S. Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, led by Ramiro Cavazos, dear friend, one of our beacons of light, and a remarkable leader that I'm proud to call my friend. These are collaborations of impact, and I am thrilled to count on their support because not one of us can make it alone or be successful alone. We have a joint responsibility for building businesses, and that responsibility should be shared across public and private sectors and in close collaboration with entire ecosystems of Hispanic chambers, big banks, community development, financial institutions, CDFIs, entrepreneur support organizations, and entrepreneurs. The entrepreneurs in the house, please raise your hand. I know that we have several of you here. We can't work on your behalf if we're not asking you what works. So this is why we invited you here. We have curated a roster of distinguished practitioners who are innovators and scaling solutions and organizing capital because we need money, we need capital, we need investments to accelerate economic opportunity for our local residents. You are all leaders intent on ensuring that the deluge of federal investments, well, they reach the people that need it the most so that our communities don't get left behind. So what do we want you to get out of the summit? 2 words: inspired action. We want you to workshop ideas, these ideas that have a real potential to drive neighborhood regeneration and business growth, quality jobs. We want you to identify collaborations that are dedicated and focused, and we want you to identify funding to implement that vision. In short, we hope that this summit supports your work because we know you're doing tremendous things in your community. We want to uplift that, want to empower you so that your community can move forward in tangible ways. I want to take a moment to say a special thank you to our Board of Advisors. I could not do my work without them. In attendance, we have our chair, Ambassador Gadi Vasquez, and board members Francisco Sanchez and Mike Valdez-Fauli. Please stand to be recognized. And it goes without saying that I could not do my job if I didn't have a boss that supports me, that believes in me. So I want to recognize Elliot Gerson. Please stand. He's Executive Vice President at the Aspen Institute. He leads over 40 policy programs, public programs like the Ideas Festival, and I'm just so honored to count on his support. And of course, the Aspen Latinos in Society team. I generally leave that till the end, but I can't. I really have to recognize them now. They're incredible, and I'm so grateful for their leadership, especially Beth, Eddie, and Yasmin, who have worked endless hours to make this summit possible. So please, let's give them a round of applause. And to our presenting sponsors, the Coca-Cola Company, Bank of America, and Comcast, your investments helps us organize for success. And to all the other sponsors for being here, and every one of you that bought a ticket, it makes a difference. We want to continue this great work. And one of those pillars that has been instrumental in helping us take the program to the next level is the Kauffman Foundation. Their focus and promotion of entrepreneurship-led economic development is really a game-changing proposition. Through their grant-making and research, they're uplifting best practices. And I'm proud to say that thanks to their support, we will be able to stay 1 more year in 6 cities that we've been privileged to work with. Those cities are, so if it's your city, you got to do a little shout out. Chicago. All right. El Paso. Miami. Phoenix. San Antonio. And San Bernardino. All right. Well, they've all been developing concrete strategies to grow Latino businesses and build community wealth. We're being really ambitious. The work that we're doing is so hard, but we are so committed. And we're going to learn, and we're going to codify these learnings and best practices and replicate them across the country. And now I'm so delighted to introduce Philip Gaskin, who is Vice President of Entrepreneurship for the Ewing, Marion, Kauffman Foundation. Philip is responsible for leading the foundation's entrepreneurship portfolio, which aims to eliminate systemic barriers and enhance economic activity through inclusive entrepreneurship. Please join me virtually, Philip Gaskin.
Domenika, thank you. Hello. Good morning, everyone. Sorry I can't be there, but looking forward to seeing everyone tomorrow. And there's some energy in the room, and I like that.
Oh, good.
That's awesome to see. We are so pleased to support the Latinos in Society program. The work that you're doing is vital. It really is. And we're talking about survival of communities, survival of people, and creating wealth. When I look at the work that we do in our ecosystem space, I think about these three things: that without equitable ecosystem building, you don't get wealth equity. And if you don't get wealth equity, you're not going to have social equity. And so what we do in our work, we look at what are those opportunities that can be created in communities across the United States that open up those different types of opportunities, so that in our work, so that entrepreneurs can start more businesses and grow them. We started our ecosystem building work about 5 years ago in this phase of our chapter at Kauffman, looking at what are those systemic barriers that get in the way, and how do we find people that are doing ecosystem building all across the nation and try to all get in one room, which we did at our first eShip Summit in 2017. And since then, what we've been trying to do is help professionalize the field of ecosystem building, just to support the field and have ecosystem building become a thing. And with work that you all are doing, everyone across the nation is doing, see that becoming a reality. We know that some of the things that we say, economies are local. People are the new economies. We say that other folks use those terms as well. Because if we don't start local, we're not going to grow our communities the way we need to be, in equitable ways, connected ways, prosperous ways. So I can't thank you enough for the work that you're doing. You're leading. This is groundbreaking work that you're doing, and to be that go-to for ecosystem building in Latino communities across the United States. We're starting with the powerful six, and I'm sure we're going to grow farther than that. But just know that you're on the right path. We're really proud of what you're doing, and I look forward to being there tomorrow.
All right. Thank you, Philip. He couldn't join us today, but he will be with us tomorrow for those Action Lab participants. We will be able to workshop ideas, and it's wonderful to have not only the Kauffman Foundation there, but the Rockefeller Foundation as well. So thank you so much, and we will see you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. You're going to hear that word a lot, ecosystem building, right? And it's important because it really does reduce my stress level, because it means I'm not doing this work alone. There's so many national leaders here. I want to recognize some of those colleagues. And I just like Arturo Casares, where are you, from CEO of Latino Business Action Network. Incredible work scaling Latino businesses. We are part of the ecosystem to help those businesses get contracts. So without his work, our work's not possible. So thank you so much. I know that we'll have Cindy Benavides as well from LULAC, so hopefully we'll be able to connect with her as well, and so many others. And now it is my honor to introduce the Aspen Institute's president and CEO, a leader committed to a free, just, and equitable society where all Americans can prosper. He is a former president of the Franklin Marshall College, where he left a remarkable legacy of student success, increased diversity, increased scholarship opportunities for first-generation college students. He is a former Rhodes Scholar and someone that has so many accolades, too many to list, but I wanted at least to mention two. In 2016, he was named by the White House Champion of Change and was elected to the American Academy of Arts and Sciences in 2020. I am proud to work under his leadership. He is one of the reasons I took the job, after Elliot, of course, and after Gaddy. But it was one of those opportunities to talk to someone who's so authentic. He's so accessible. Just last week, we celebrated Hispanic Heritage Month, and although he missed out on the empanadas, we talked for over an hour about the lab, and he was sharing strategies. And after he left, we were just so pumped up, and my staff says, it's so incredible that we got that much time with our leader. And I just want to recognize that, because that's the kind of leadership that we need, people that lean into the work and shares this national platform that is the Aspen Institute to advance our work. So we have grown tremendously, over 200% over the last 2 years, and I really give credit to his support. So without any further ado, please welcome President and CEO of the Aspen Institute, Dan Porterfield.
Thank you, Domenika. That was just such a lovely introduction. Wish my mom had heard it. She might have believed it. It's so good to be here. And thank you to our partners, our partner cities, our sponsors, our board, the incredible team that Domenika has assembled and leads so well. And I really love that comment that Philip made a few moments ago when he said, equitable ecosystem building leads to wealth equity, leads to social equity. And that's an equation I think that this room has really captured with your work. And it's one that can make a huge difference for our country. So Philip, thank you so much for all you do. Sometimes people say, well, what is the Aspen Institute again? Occasionally I compare it to the Force in Star Wars because we're everywhere with Domenika as our top Jedi. But really what we are is we're a global nonprofit institution founded in the aftermath of the Holocaust and World War II at a time when there were communist systems rising in a big way. And those systems were essentially declaring war on both free enterprise and on democracy. Our founders in 1949 and 1950 pushed back. They believed in something called human dignity that unites us all, that each person has and no one has more of than anyone else. And human dignity is a part of that creative power, and that resilience, and that fellow feeling that we sense when we're together and that we believe our economy should recognize. Our founders believed in dialogue across the supposed divides of difference. They believed in cultivating something called values-based leadership. And they believed in bringing, with great intentionality, the business community into the work of creating and sustaining a free, just, and equitable society. Today, that's a commonplace idea, but it wasn't in 1949 and 50 when the Aspen Institute created all kinds of fora, and we're the inheritors of those fora today. They're renewing them and reinventing them, that brought the business community into the work of creating the very best society that we can. Our founders understood with, I think so well expressed by perhaps our greatest board member, former Secretary of State, Madeleine Albright, that for democracy to work, and she said, people need to vote, yes, but they also need to eat. Democracy must deliver. And again, that's what this is about today. And this work is about helping to create an inclusive economy that works for everyone. This work is about rewarding people who work full-time and play by the rules with opportunity and financial security and pathways to continuous growth. This gathering is about breaking down the barriers to equitable investment, long assembled over decades, but breaking them down for investment in companies of all sizes, but especially for small and growing businesses, the heartbeat of a strong economy. This work is about perpetually supporting education and lifelong professional skill building and development so that workers and entrepreneurs and businesses can adapt fast given today's tech-fueled accelerating rates of change that we're all dealing with. We have to invest in people. This is work that takes into account the needs of businesses, but also nonprofit enterprises like ours, for excellent infrastructure, for reasonable regulations, for investments in resiliency to get us through hard times, for the reform and improvement of government procurement policies that, as Domenika knows so well, have the potential to be levers for equitable growth. The Latinos in Societies program really embodies the Aspen Institute's mission and values and purpose in promoting long-term and sustainable economic strength and growth in Latino communities throughout the United States, and for that matter, in partners around the world. And Domenika and her team have the knowledge, the integrity, the expertise, the deep cultural pride, and above all, and you see it in her presentation, everything she does, the relentless principled drive to make purposeful and sustainable change. Domenika, where did Domenika go? Where are you? Domenika, thank you so much for what you bring to this organization. So the team has gathered here for our benefit such a formidable array of industry leaders, policymakers, urban thinkers, practitioners, entrepreneurs, all with that shared commitment of breaking down the barriers and expanding opportunities for aspiring and existing Latino entrepreneurs and small business owners. And Domenika's team has made it possible for us to learn about some of the many innovative efforts happening nationwide in our 6 cities who are here today so proudly to foster entrepreneurship and wealth creation in Latino communities. Hope, opportunity, and solutions are right before us, from creating access to capital, to expanding technical training, to implementing anti-displacement strategies, to transferring business ownership, to working on the long journey to scale that small businesses embark upon, to digital upskilling, to paving the way for new generations of entrepreneurs to have the will and the skill to do their best to build businesses that will last. And so much more will happen here with this convening. I think we all know that roughly about 1 in 5 Americans right now identify as Latino. And before long, it will be 1 in 4. If the Aspen Institute were selling property or technology services, I'd make sure my team knew that the Latino community is an absolutely robust customer base. But actually what we're selling is democracy and shared prosperity, which means the strengths and growth of Latino community is even more important. More and more, the entrepreneurs, the executives, the inventors, the financiers, the mayors and governors and school board leaders, the college presidents, the thought leaders and discoverers in this great country will come from the Latino community and its many vibrant cultures. And thank God for that. That is fantastic for this country. Right now, there's at least 450,000 Latino-owned businesses in the United States, a community growing faster than any other group. What an asset to celebrate and understand and build upon, which is exactly why we're here today. Whether these companies are in construction or retail or tech or wellness or biotech or the arts or financial security or the green sector or something else, what they're all about is striving, family, community, and the future. And that is something to be proud of. The Aspen Institute is so proud of the work of our program and of all of you who are our partners. We hope that today's program will feel like a well-kindled fire. On the one hand, bringing light to all these important issues that you're working on, all these efforts of entrepreneurs, of individuals, the private sector, CDFIs, local governments, federal officials, and more. But we also want this convening to bring some heat to these efforts, what Domenika called inspired action, to accelerate Latino small business growth and expansion. Light and heat, that's our work today. Thank you for being here and for helping to renew the promise of the American economy, and with that, the American experiment in democracy. Thank you so much. And now it is my pleasure and honor to introduce our next speaker, an eminent human being. We could stop there. An eminent human being who leads with mind, heart, and spine, Julie Chavez Rodriguez. Ms. Chavez Rodriguez currently works as Senior Advisor and Assistant to President Joe Biden and Director of the White House Office of Intergovernmental Affairs. Prior to joining the Biden-Harris administration, she served as Deputy Campaign Manager on the Biden-Harris presidential campaign. She was also National Political Director and Traveling Chief of Staff for then-Senator Kamala Harris's presidential campaign. Before that, during the Obama-Biden administration, she served as Special Assistant to President Barack Obama and Senior Deputy Director of Public Engagement in the Office of Public Engagement. Among all this and so much more, she is not only a leader in her community and in our country, but the epitome of a selfless public servant who has dedicated her life to people, community, and country, just like her heroic grandfather, Cesar Chavez. Please join me in welcoming Julie to the stage.
I'll lower these a little bit. But thank you so much, Dan, for that warm introduction. And thank you so much, Domenika, for your tremendous leadership, not just in supporting Latino entrepreneurship and for inviting me here today, but for continuing to grow it, to invest in it, and to bring people together to ensure that you all have the opportunities to also do your part. You know, we live in a very unique time in history when our democratic institutions are definitely being challenged, and I think all of us are being called to really step into our own leadership and into our own power in these moments. And, you know, over the course of the last several months, I think we can all kind of take stock of what our community has experienced and what our country has gone through as a result of the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic. You know, many of us, whether it's directly lost loved ones or have close friends who lost members of their families, or, you know, those, you know, families that struggled to just kind of make ends meet during these times. Those Latino families who maybe had to close the doors of their small businesses or lay off workers, or those who actually, you know, equally as challenging had to risk their own lives or the health of their families to go out and serve as frontline workers to ensure that, you know, we had food on our table and that we were able to get the health care and services that we need. In so many ways, big and small, our community has been called upon during this time to really be able to step up for ourselves, for our families, for our communities. And now, you know, we're being called upon to really step up in our economic recovery. You know, if you remember when we came into the White House, only 46% of our schools were open. There was about 18 million Americans that were still relying on unemployment benefits, and less than 1% of Americans were fully vaccinated during that time. And we know what this meant for many of our Latino families and our Latino businesses. But even in the face of many of these challenges, what we have done, and I think what we as a community oftentimes really show, is the real resilience and power of potential when we come together to show that we can really rebuild America and we can still do big things again. So on January 20th, when we came in to our administration, we really hit the ground running and made sure that we worked quickly to be able to deliver results for Latino families, immediate economic relief, to our Latino business owners, and to our Latino children. We've made so much progress in really being able to get Americans and Latinos back to work in record numbers. We were able to pass the American Rescue Plan within months of coming into office, changing the course of the pandemic and the impact that it was having on our hard-hit Latino families and communities. And we built a bridge towards economic recovery for Latino families, reducing poverty by 40%, which will truly have generational impacts. And we need to continue to tell the story, I think, of the critical work that you all are doing across your cities, you know, throughout the 6 cities as a real model and instruction for other cities to follow. We need to continue to tell the stories of the Latino entrepreneurs and small business owners that are refueling or fueling our economic recovery as we continue to get Americans back to work and continue to really build on the president's economic vision and his plan. Now, not only have we passed kind of once-in-a-generation investments in healthcare, in education, small businesses, infrastructure, mental health, but we're doing so in a way that really sets us on a path for the future, and we are seeing real results. The number of Americans, as I mentioned, relying on government support has never been lower than in 52 years. Our administration has added over 10 million good-paying jobs, and we know we're just getting started because we haven't even begun to see the job creation that will come as a result of the bipartisan infrastructure law. and Latino unemployment is at an all-time low of only 3.8%. We've invested $11 billion in Hispanic serving institutions to continue to build the pipeline of Latino engineers, scientists, advanced manufacturers, and solar industry leaders as we build a clean energy economy. And we're revitalizing American manufacturing to rebuild our middle class and to ensure that we are helping to provide critical on-ramps for Latino workers of all skills and abilities. Now, tens of millions of families receive the child tax credit payments, and specifically for Latino children, 1.7 million Latino children were lifted out of poverty as a result of the child tax credit. Now, we know that this historic progress did not happen on its own. It didn't happen just because we enacted legislation. It happened as a result of all of you. Because of the thousands of efforts across this country, the communities getting engaged, making sure that our community had a real access to these critical benefits and opportunities that were being made available to them, whether it was the Restaurant Revitalization Fund or helping to access PPP loans. We know these were important and critical lifelines for so many of our folks. And it was you that helped support our businesses and entrepreneurs in some of their greatest times of need. And we know it'll be each of you all helping to create on-ramps for the incredible opportunities that lie ahead as we begin to unlock the opportunities with the infrastructure bill and the Inflation Reduction Act. We know this opportunity is tremendous because we know that there are so many new areas, whether it's bidding for new government contracts and hearing about the incredible procurement academies, hopefully I got the term correct, that you all are helping to create and build. These are true models that other communities throughout our country can begin to follow and really tap into. Because in this moment, we need to do more than just rebuild our roads and bridges, as we often say. We need to build on-ramps to true wealth in our community across all of our communities. And you all can help us build a better America, one that continues to create these on-ramps to opportunity and to innovation. So thank you all for showing us what's possible across these 6 cities. Thank you for building models for other cities to follow. As the Director of Intergovernmental Affairs, it makes my heart sing with joy to be able to have models like yours to show as instructive for other cities and other mayors to take hold of and to take root. And thank you all for continuing to build economic opportunity across all of our communities and to be able to show Latinos the inherent power and potential that they have to not just unlock the future, but to be a critical part of building this future. So thank you all so much. And as my grandfather often said, we cannot seek achievement for ourselves and forget about the progress and prosperity for our communities. Our ambitions must be broad enough to include the aspirations and needs of others for their sake and for our own. Thank you all.